How's it going, everyone? And Happy New Year's. So, with the new year, there comes a couple new games introduced to the mix for our game portion of the show. A couple new guests will be joining us in the near future, and some returning guests as well. This episode in particular has Raul from the Wholesome Hoodlum Podcast, a good podcasting friend of mine that you've probably heard a lot, and you might have gotten tired, but trust me, he's always a joy to talk to. And with the new year and the upcoming podcast episodes comes kind of this little bit new addition to the podcast, is this pre-roll or intro to say, just kind of letting you guys know some ups. It won't be as long as normal because it's just gonna be a little wrap-ups of different things like that. This one's just kind of doing a little congratulations to 2018 and how much I want to thank everyone for listening. We really boomed, and I'm really grateful to everyone for listening and sharing about it. And it's really you guys who make the podcast blossom, because we don't really advertise this show that much. It's really just you guys talking about it with your friends, tweeting about it, sharing it. That's kind of how this works, and I really appreciate that. And I'm really looking forward to 2019. Like, there's so many fun guests that I have lined up for you guys to hear. There's so many different games and stories I can't wait to play and listen to, and hopefully you guys will enjoy as well. And it seems like I'm rambling on a little bit. Trust me, these won't be as long in the near future. They'll probably be just short of a minute, just kind of, But Happy New Year's to everyone. I hope 2019 will be a joy for everyone. So let's get on with the show. And welcome to another episode of the Convoluted Podcast. It's your host, Jesus, aka Tyrant Dominus, once again with one of my favorite guests and friend, Raul from the Wholesome Hoodlum. So how you been, man?
What's up? I've been... Oh, when was the last time we spoke?
Verbally or over messages? I don't know. It's been
at all. I mean, over messages like earlier today, but whatever. My point in saying any of that is that that's a kind of a loaded question right now. Like, it's holidays, and the holidays just kind of like bum me out or piss me off depending on the day. And then I just recently, I don't know if we talked about this on whose podcast or if that episode came out or whatnot, but I broke up with my girlfriend at the end of October. And so there's been like this whole process of like, dealing with that, getting over that whole process. And
damn, dude.
So that plus the holidays has just gotten me kind of feeling off, I guess I could say.
No,
but like, I'm not terrible. I'm doing pretty good. Everything's holding together. It's just like, going through some stuff, as we all do sometimes.
No, okay. All right, damn, dude. Yeah, we do chat a little bit here and there. It's been a while. Well, you're right. It's been the holidays, and but damn, that does suck. And for anyone listening at the moment, the holidays for you guys have passed from this recording. I hope everything went well as far as your Christmas and New Year's. But yeah, it's for us at this time. It is
just
still
about to get into the thick of it. Yeah, it's the 20th, right?
Yeah, so we're just about to hit the holidays, so we're about to hit the storm, you would say. But for you guys, it's already been passed. I hope everything went well. Hope everything's been good for you guys. But Raul, damn, it's hard to hear that. Mostly you're right with the holidays, and everything's supposed to be kind of cheery and merry for the most part.
Well, the thing is, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh, the thing is that like my problem is compounded by the whole, being suddenly single thing. And yes, that was my choice, but it's one of those things like, have you ever seen those memes where it's like what a guy acts like after he breaks up, and it's like right after, and the dude's like partying, and then like 3 weeks after, he's like crying into his fucking, like he's like curled up in the fetal position, just crying. And then in the reverse, it's like the chick is doing the crying at the beginning, and then at the end, and then 3 weeks later, she's the one who's partying and very happy.
Yes,
I
I've
don't know.
seen those memes.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what's going on with my ex-girlfriend, but that's kind of how it went. I was like, dude, this is nice. I'm free. It's awesome. And then as like I was trying to get out and do more things, it's one of those situations where like I was with somebody for so long and kind of not doing very much with the friends or people that I was acquainted with, that people stopped inviting me places. Right.
No, okay, wow, okay.
So now it's like when I want to get out and do something, the Friday night rolls around and I'm like, hey guys, what's everybody doing? I got a lot of friends that are now with girlfriends now, or with their own, relationships. And so they're like, I'm just going to stay in with my girlfriend, and that's fine. That's what they want to do. But it's kind of like the reverse, right? When my friends are all free and busy, or free and not busy, I'm busy. And when I'm not busy, my friends are all busy. And then that plus the wintertime has led to like this kind of like thick layer of seasonal depression, where it's just like I wake up. We were supposed to meet up for the podcast recording today at 11. It's now what, 3:33, because I slept in that long, because I have nothing to do and nowhere to be. And so like I'm just kind of like staying up all night, vegging out, playing video games, going insane, and then I go to bed. I wake up and I start the whole process over again. So it's kind of like the winter time is fine, except for the fact that it's cold and shitty. It's just that like the sunlight thing, and then not being able to get out and do as much stuff as I want. And then it might get cold or rainy or something, and I don't want to go out. So that all kind of compounds into like this like wintertime malaise that I'm not a big fan of. But I'm surviving. Like I'm self-aware enough to like look at things in the big picture and realize that my bills are taken care of. Life is going pretty good. I've got a little bit of money in my pocket. Things ain't bad. Like it's just like I'm not 100% as stimulated as I'd like to be.
Okay. No, like like we've talked on both of each other's podcasts to a point when we've mentioned this a lot of times, and anyone listening to it, like we can relate a lot, and I feel you on that mood, that level of sentiment. Like my overall way with the relationship hasn't been as heavy as yours, I feel, because I haven't really had a real stable relationship for X amount of time. They've just been very short-lived or almost none.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my personality. I would say it's kind of hard for me, I would say. Mostly, like for anyone listening, I work graveyard, so my schedule is kind of rough.
Right.
So trying to get into that mood, and not only that, as far as just like those type of relationship, but just relationship with friends and stuff like that. When you like you said, you want to go and have some fun with your buddies, and just go out for a little bit. Within the last decade, I would say I have made a couple friends since I moved to Oregon, but the way I am and the way kind of life works, a lot of ghosting has happened, and my pool of friends have died down, and my overall interactions have been limited, I would say.
Yeah.
So I get in those funks as well. So we can both relate to that. And I think that's one of the few things that what's weird with when it comes with you and me, that we can kind of easily talk about things like that, because it's what's this? Symbiotic, I would say. Is that the word I want to use? Yeah, I think so.
What do you mean?
Well, we can kind of have the same mentality and same sentiment when it comes to different ideas.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. So go ahead.
So yeah, it is that we're in that kind of mood, and I like that little funk. I get in that sometimes when you want to be out and about, but like you said, you're for the most part you're reasonably stable at the moment. You're not super depressed. You're a little down, but that's to be expected. So I feel you on that, and I can't really say much more than that. We just gotta look forward to the new year, and let's see.
I think. Sorry again.
No, you can go now. That's kind of the end of my statement.
I think making friends as an adult is like an interesting conversation for me, right? Like I made friends okay as a like teenager. You kind of just like when you're a teenager, you've got a place to go, and I think this also applies to young adulthood if you end up going to college, which I didn't, where you're just kind of like in a place with a bunch of people, a lot of different people from different backgrounds with different personalities. I mean, that's like fucking prime real estate for making friends, right? Like, you don't like this guy, it's cool, you go over to this person, sooner or
That's true.
later
Yeah.
you will make a friend, right? And so socializing kind of comes second nature. And I mean, that's kind of who we are as humans, right? We need socializing, and we do it. A problem that happens as you get older, I've observed and unfortunately been victim of, is that different things get in the way. Like you said, like you can make friends and then it's hard to keep them. People ghost, people disappear, people get busy, and sometimes it's not even their own fault. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I totally get it. That's kind of the. It's funny. That's actually a good topic to talk about. Mostly because we're in our late 20s to early 30s. For anyone listening out there,
Right, we're leaving the fun zone, entering
yes,
the serious zone.
yeah, it's that point in your life where you're kind of really getting like into the thick of things. You have to really think about like your future for the most part. Not to say that when you're in your late teens, early 20s, it's not hard to think about those things. It is, but those are kind of the testing grounds for not only relationship with people and your career, but it's easier because I think for the general public, it's easier to socialize and be able to dip your feet into different careers and jobs. But then later in life, you kind of really, if you want to be a quote unquote successful human being, then you have to have done well in the beginning. But
Right, you got to like buckle down and focus. That's what they say. I'm never gonna trust that, but that's
no,
what they
but
say.
I don't know. It's true. We're given these opportunities in the beginning, in schools and clubs and stuff like that, to be able to socially interact with different people and the different activities that we're given. And it's harder when you're older. You're right. Unless and if you're not trying to like put yourself out there for the most part, it's kind of hard sometimes.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that like even if you do that, it's still like you still can be met with lots of resistance. Like that's the thing that I think is the most mystifying part. Like I already have identified that the problem in my life is partially my own schedule and my habits, right? Like if all I do in terms of like going outside is like going to appointments, going out with friends that I already have established, that's few and far between, honestly, and then going to the gym or going to grocery shop or run errands, like all this business oriented stuff, not business oriented literally, but like, business oriented in terms of like what I just want to get done and then go home. I'm not there for like fun or just for the fuck of it. If those are the only activities I do, then of course I'm going to have trouble socializing and meeting people who are like-minded and blah 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 blah, because I'm just doing things that are like A to B and then back home.
No, yeah. So, and I'm in the same boat, in that it's I don't know how to spell it out for people, and it's just literally forcing yourself to be in these, for maybe some people, awkward positions. There are times when I go out with my siblings that they're more of the social people compared to me, but they have their schedule works for them. They get the weekends off, and when I myself get the chance and I get invited, I go to these to the bars and clubs and stuff and get to socialize with other people for the most part. And it's it's not my scene, but it's not bad to be out there and talk to random people. That's kind of what I do now.
Right,
So
right.
with this,
Once you get the hang of it, it becomes like second nature to just make conversation with people. That's what's fun about podcasting, is that it kind of makes you sociable even if you're not.
exactly, and then it actually has been helping me a lot lately within the last year and a half since I've been doing this. And there are a few guests that I've gotten to know a little bit more outside of the episode I recorded with them. and actually to talk like yourself a little bit more daily, not a daily basis, but on a weekly basis, check and see how it's up and everything, and play some games as well. That's one thing that's been interesting about this podcasting thing. Because there's sometimes you get a guest and it's just that one shot, just fun talk, maybe a little bit email back and forth about a few things, but that's the last you talk with them. And not saying out there anyone who's like why didn't you hit me back or anything? No, it's not that. It's this show is about the ability for you guys to promote yourselves and tell the people a little bit more. That's why I want this show to be about. Just let people talk about their interests, their project and stuff like that. But when you get that chance to continue that maybe professional what is it? What's the word I want to use? Professional connection.
Mm-hmm.
Just continue that on. Like you and me are now working with someone else on like I would say a podcasting circle community, something like that. Right.
Podcasting circle sounds fun. It sounds like we all like get into a circle and start playing bongos or some shit.
Then yeah, so it's we're like starting the 2019 for anyone listening out there. We have a small community of podcasting now that we're trying to help each other out and explore. And podcasting overall has been slightly improving. There was a big hit in the late 2000s, and it spiked down a little bit, but it's coming back up, and that's a great thing. I think. So,
sorry to talk about the podcasting thing. I think it's interesting. I feel like I don't know. I'm not going to tell anybody the name because I don't think they'll be able to find me if I don't. But I used to do a little thing on YouTube, right? When I was like 18, 19 years old, I used to do videos on YouTube, and mostly I think completely gaming related. But like I remember doing that. That was like in 2008, right? And YouTube, 2006 is when it came around, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So it took a little while before it hit stride, and probably was more successful even after I ended up stopping. But like I always feel like when I take up some sort of creative internet venture, I always feel like I'm a little bit behind, right? Like I'm like, fuck, I should have started this a couple years ago, or I should have thought about this a couple years ago when I was like when it was just an infant idea in my brain. I should have just gone for it, because then when I get there, I feel like, oh man, this place has too many people and too many players, and it's going to take forever to like carve out an audience. And to my credit, or against my word here, it's been a lot easier than I thought in podcasting, but I've always been feeling that way. I feel like podcasting right now is booming, and that's cool because it means that like you can say that you do it and somebody out there will know what the fuck you're talking about, which wasn't always the case when I talked about doing videos on YouTube the occasional times that I did. But it's also got its own drawbacks in that like I said before, there are a lot of people listening. Hard to make your voice heard. It's like trying to become Instagram famous in a way.
Yeah, that's true. But no, yeah, it's a pretty fun community, and we've both spoken with a lot of people from different parts.
I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I have. We both have.
Yeah, and like what's fun is like I've been listening to some of your guests lately. Like, I'm surprised we haven't bumped into some of each other's guests because the way we kind of recruit people.
Yeah.
Promote it.
Right.
That's a great way to look at it too, because that means the pool of people out there willing to talk about stuff is vastly out. Like everyone wants to talk about something. That's the fun thing. Someone out there has something they want to say, and if you give them a platform, and they are within reason and aren't lunatics, you're willing to share that with your audience.
I mean, if they're lunatics, I even kind of want to hear them sometimes.
Okay, I have a spectrum. I'll give some people something, but if it goes a little too far, I'm like, okay, I'll listen to you, and that episode will never get released. I have actually one episode that will never get released.
Can I listen to it?
Yeah, if I can find it. It's somewhere, but
I have an episode like that. It's not only like, I mean, now that I think about it, I might be able to go back in this new audio software and see if I can clean it up. But there were a couple of big problems. Like the dude was here in the studio bedroom, and he was moving away from the mic a bunch. I've talked about this guy a lot, and I saved the audio just in case I could do something with it. I might be able to repurpose it now, but like it was like 3 hours of just nonsense, and it was filled with technical flaws, so I ended up not using it. But yeah, everybody's got one, right? My friends insist that I should re-invite him on for like the 100th episode, which now that I'm thinking about it is coming up. But I don't know.
No,
We'll
yeah.
figure it out when the time comes.
So let's so before we kind of get into other topics, I want to hear how 2018 for you in podcasting has been. That's
oh man.
Yeah.
So trying to think of it, like, to sum it up, it's been mostly positive. I mean, the early 2018, I was like probably the busiest I've been up until about not October. I don't know when the exact thing was, but like I had a big move somewhere in there, and that waylaid me for quite a bit. I had to get soundproofing and everything reset up in my place or my new place, and that was like everything that sidetracks me, it always lasted a bit longer than I thought it would. So that ended up being like 3 to 4 months of me not doing any podcasts, which was interesting. It gave me some time to do other things. But I'd say on the whole, podcasting has been a pretty positive experience for me in 2018. And I've taken a lot from it personally. I've grown a lot. Like I said, one of the biggest things is that I am antisocial, but for my own personality reasons, not necessarily for my inability to socialize, because podcasting's made me better at it. And I realized, like, I don't know if this makes any sense, but like one of the biggest positives I've taken from the whole experience is when I talk to people, I can engage with them in the same way that I do in the podcast, in a way that makes them, I don't know, I'm guessing, enjoy speaking to me, which, I mean, I've got my own self-esteem issues, and I'm generally self-deprecating to begin with. And so, like, I always just assume nobody wants to talk to me, but I talk to people when they warm up and they get really invested in the conversation, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking good at this now. And that's a pretty cool feeling.
No, yeah, that's true. And well, I think I've said this a lot as far as your podcast, and like I've been on your show a couple times. So anyone out there listening, you can go check out a couple of those. And he's been on my show a couple times. So if you want to go back into the backlogs and listen to him again, because like I said, like you might be a little cynical, but you're willing to speak your mind. That's one. Two, or actually one would be that you have a very, very enjoyable voice to listen to. That's one.
Yeah.
So secondly is you're willing to speak your mind and go sometimes against the grain, and that leads to some interesting conversation. And that's a thing that I myself have to work on, instead of just trying to agree. Unless I do agree with the person, I don't want to just disagree for
no reason, right? For no reason, just to be contrarian.
Yeah, I like, if I agree with the point, I'll like, I agree, But if there is a point that I disagree, I would like to state that and actually have a very interesting conversation, I hope. That's another thing. And there is probably another point, but I can't think of it. But like I said, overall, the content you put out is like, I like listening to it. I've said this multiple times, and anyone listening, you should go check them out.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I mean, like, I'm always trying to make sure that the conversation is good, and like that I mean, honestly, that takes up a lot of like the energy. I mean, that's a weird thing to say, but like sometimes you get conversation, it like, it starts and then it stops immediately. We've all had those conversations in normal day-to-day life, where you're trying to strike up a conversation with somebody and you ask maybe the wrong question, right? Not like something that offends them, but just like they don't really have much to say about that. It's like the same thing as making small talk, when you're like, well, what about the weather? And they're like, yeah, I guess it's all right, or whatever. And they have their own reason for answering like that. You don't want to like pry, but that's the biggest effort. That's the most effort I do, is like, what's the question or the phrase I'm going to say is going to lock this person in and get them talking to me, and sometimes it's hard to find, and it comes at like the 2-hour mark, and I always feel like, fuck, I should have started recording here. And other times it comes like in the first 5 minutes, and then we have a really, really, really good episode. And luckily, I think I've been blessed that most times it happens earlier rather than later.
True. So here's one. This is a little constructive criticism from at least from my point.
All right, let's hear it.
So your episodes, they have really weird like time limits. So it's hard for me sometimes to listen to a couple episodes because you never know if you're getting a 1 hour episode or a 2.5 hour episode.
Or a 4 hour episode, yeah.
Yeah. So that would be, like I don't want to say you should set a limit, but probably have something a little bit closer within a half hour mark from each other. Because it's like for me, when I listen, because I listen to a lot of my shows at work.
Right.
So I only get like a 5 hour span to listen to my headset while I'm working before the bosses say something. But some other shows you kind of get like an idea like, okay, this is an hour long episode, so I can listen to 5 episodes, or I listen to 1 episode of this and a couple episodes of something else or another show.
Right.
So that's my only constructive criticism as far as your show is maybe a time limit of some sort. But what sucks is like when you're having a really good conversation, it's kind of hard to do.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to cut somebody off, unlike what I just did just now. But like, it's extremely hard to cut somebody off and be like, "All right, that's it. Sorry, bye," and then end everything really quickly. At least I'm sure there are people out there that are better at it than me, but I have a hard time.
No, yeah. So for anyone really listening to this and are thinking about doing a podcast, there's a lot. There's a good subreddit for it. There's a lot of people willing to help you out there, and.
Yeah, it's a neato project. If you're thinking about doing it, you should do it. Like there's so much equipment out there that makes it so possible and so user friendly that there's really no reason to not, at the very least, try it if you're excited about it.
And sometimes it doesn't even cost you anything. It's literally can be an app on your phone. That's what's great is, people have this has opened up a lot, but that also opens up like this. What happened to YouTube and Instagram? There's just a flood of people now.
Sorry,
but that's not bad because you can kind of get like gems out of that. So
right, that's what I was going to say is that there's a silver lining to that in that the creative and innovative creators out there will rise to the top. That's not going to be all of us, of course, but like through that you get advancement in the entire medium, and that's cool, that's interesting, and that's ultimately I'd hope what we want, rather that's at least a positive side effect of this whole like having everybody and their dog doing a podcast. Because
there's a
seriously,
podcast about that actually.
Really?
Me and my dog. Yeah.
That's just an expression.
No, there's a podcast about that.
Oh, that's ridiculous. And that's my point is that like, even as a podcaster, you hear some of the titles and topics that other people do podcasts for. You're like, that's insane. And then you kind of you shrug your shoulders and roll your eyes. You're like, well, whatever. What do I do my podcast about anyway?
Yeah, that's true. Like I'm currently working for hopefully by the start of the new year. If you're listening to this, I have already started, and I'm currently working on my new podcast, Reaction Casts. And I told you a little bit about this the other day when we were just, chatting about it. It's going to be a commentary, reactionary podcast where I literally do commentary of a TV show. So you can be playing the show and my commentary in the background. And then afterwards, the show's over and I'll actually talk about the episode and you can hear my thoughts. It's going to be a very experimental one. I'm going to see how that goes. And luckily, I'm using Anchor for that one, so it's not costing me a dime. So I don't have to pay for the fees for Podbean. But I like Podbean. No offense to Podbean. I like having my main channel, my main show on Podbean. But if I'm gonna do an experimental podcast, why not use a free platform?
Right.
So on top of that, Anchor has a lot of features. So there's nothing wrong with that. If you, like I said, if anyone out there trying to do a podcast and worrying about cost, try Anchor. It's there's almost really no negatives at the moment besides kind of their app acting up at times and things like that. But
I'm thinking about doing another show, but it's just like it's going to require a lot of actual work. Like my podcast now, it's like you get on and you record and then you do some editing and then that's it, right? There's nothing much more to it. You talk to people and that's it. But the new idea that I've got, and anybody who might have listened to some of my episodes in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, might have heard about it, but it's going to require lots of like actual reading and studying, and then like more scheduling because I'm going to want more than one person involved at one time. So it's I don't know, it's an idea. I thought it would be easier to implement, but as I think about it more logistically, it might be something farther off in the future. And as a like a placeholder, I've been actually thinking about doing my normal podcast live.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like on
So,
Twitch.
okay, cool. So, like, I know a little bit of the idea you're trying to spit out. Do you kind of want to spit out a little bit on the show, or do you want to?
Yeah. So the show, I mean, I don't want to share the name because it occurs
No,
to
no.
me that if I share the name and then don't create it, or and I lag on creating it, somebody might take it. But it's basically like a philosophy for dummies show. Like I've been recently getting into or exploring philosophy, not really getting into it, and only like on a personal level. Like, what does this mean to me, and how I'm, and I guess that is philosophy to a T. But like, I've been exploring the concepts and writings of different philosophers and trying to apply those to things that I know in real life and just helping that using those things to kind of process the meaning of certain things to me. And that's kind of I'm an introspective kind of guy. I get lost in thought sometimes, and so it's a good place for me. But I wanted a space to like explore that more with other people because I feel like that's where I can really like define things better is once I've gotten some like contrasting opinions. And so I wanted to invite, like, I want to basically maybe two or three people at a time, or two or three guests along with myself, where we come on and we pick a philosophical topic and then we talk about it. But the key here is that, like, some people would have experience with philosophy and other people wouldn't. Like, I don't typically. And so I would do a little bit of reading beforehand, try to get a grasp of whatever concept or topic I'm thinking about. And then I would have like, my friend Paul on who doesn't do any philosophy reading at all, I'm sure. Maybe I'm being cruel here by saying that, but I'm assuming he doesn't. And then I would have like maybe other people on that are, a bit more into it or familiar with it, and we could all talk it out, and that would be cool. I think for me personally, it's interesting to hear what people who know about it have to say, but it's also interesting it's interesting to hear people who are hearing it for the first time and processing it and seeing how they feel about those things. Like, the trolley problem, for example. Are you familiar with that one?
No, I do not.
I'm sure you've heard it before, but it's basically like if you are, for whatever reason, somehow you found yourself in a situation where a runaway trolley is barreling down the tracks, and in front of it is 5 people, and you're right in front of a switch that will switch it off to another set of tracks where there's only one person. So the question
Oh,
is, do you pull the lever and then kill the one person as opposed to the 5 people that are going to get killed if you don't do anything?
yes, we actually had this discussion, and
Did
luckily
we?
we never recorded. No, yeah, we remember we were chatting while we were playing one day.
Cool.
For anyone listening, that conversation started like that. We used a train instead of a trolley,
Right.
and it literally went off the rails, no pun intended, because we went into other topics like that, and it got very dark very quick.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a
But
kind of
no,
a dark, like, weird, what's the word I'm looking for? Hypothetical situation to be in, but it's an interesting question to ask, and I think that, you get interesting answers out of it. And that's like a cliche of like philosophy, like that's like I mean, I don't want to say it like I know shit about it because I don't, but like I feel like that's a day one philosophy thing, like you go
that
through
would,
that on the first day.
in my opinion, that would make for a very, for people listening, for like an episode 0 to give an idea of what your show's about. And,
Right.
that works, because
Yeah, it would be cool.
that worked because everyone, for the most part, like I didn't know the original name maybe of that situation, because most people, I like when I've heard it, it's always been a train.
Right. And so the other idea here is that it's also educational, like people who don't know anything about this or maybe have only heard little bits and pieces of it. I can do like a little 5 minute at the beginning of the thing breakdown and explain exactly what we're talking about before we go into what we think or feel about it for the rest of the show.
No, yeah. So you see that I like that. That would be fun. I don't know if you would do that like on a weekly basis or bi-weekly.
Yeah, I haven't figured it out yet. That's the other
So
problem is that there's a lot of overhead to it.
so that's like an interesting thing. That would be fun for me to listen, because like I said, we both for the most part share some of the same ideologies, I think, and our thought processes for the most. So hearing a little bit more from your stance would be interesting. Mostly when we get to talk again, I can razz you sometimes and go from there. So, but no, if that seems like something that would be fun to listen to, and hopefully it works out. Like, you know, like I said, like I know we kind of tangent off from here, 2018, how your current show is doing.
Into what I want to do next, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, moving into 2019, you know, both of us, you know, we're trying to develop our shows and continue it on, because within the, like, I don't want to speak for you, but you know, my show has stabilized and been inclining slightly. No, you know, no humble brag, or humble brag a little bit there.
Hey man, you deserve it. If you've been doing the work, then go ahead, humble brag all you want.
So, you know, like I had a spike and I was happy, you know, like we all are when we get that little bit of satisfaction.
Right. An unexpected amount of viewers or listeners suddenly.
And then you kind of plateaued a little bit, and you know, like, and then, but you know, there from my end, you know, I've been gradually going up, and you know, I'm happy with that. You know, I'm not saying don't share this show with everyone out there listening. You know, go ahead if you think someone out there would enjoy listening to this. You know, tell a friend, family member, let your dog listen to it. I don't know.
Right. I don't care. Just give me that extra download.
But no, you know, if you feel someone out there will, you know, find it interesting, because you never know. Because a lot of people, in my experience, when they hear podcasts, they don't know what it is, or they don't care. You know, and then when you explain it, even then they still don't care. But sometimes when they take a moment and actually, you know, hear them out and listen, they're like, oh, I kind of like that show, and they keep listening. So you know, you might, there's a couple shows myself that I listen to that I've told people, you know, you like, because the people out there's a lot of topics out there, like we both said, there's a lot of things out there that people like to talk about, and I try to promote some of the ones that I listen to. You like that TV show, there's a podcast about what they talk about that TV show. There's like philosophy there. If you like philosophy stuff, there's one right here. Even I promoted your podcast and some of the other hosts, like, because I still listen to a couple of my guests' podcasts outside from just the preamble research. Like, I still can continue to listen to their show because I actually like the content they put out, and I'm willing to share it with people. That's all I'm saying for anyone listening. You know, if there's a podcast or a show or anything, like you would share a show, a movie, or a TV show, just share it. You know, someone out there might enjoy it as much as you like it, and then you guys can talk about it. It's all just talking points. I don't know where I went with that.
No, I mean that's true. I was kind of like talking. I didn't get into this about meeting friends, but like, you know, lately I've been doing these things. We're going to do a tiny little non sequitur here, but I've been trying to make more friends and do more things because I realize that's a healthy way to live your life. And because we're all first off, because I'm socially awkward when it comes to like breaking into new things. You know, it's very hard for me to just walk into a place and be really warm with people. And secondly, because we're all completely attached to our phones and almost dependent on them, I figured, fuck it, I'll download Meetup, and I'll go to the Meetup groups and I'll make friends, right? There's a Meetup group for fucking everything, to the point where I'm just like, this is a little specific, it's not for me, right? And I just kind of like shrug it off and go find something else. Same thing applies to podcasts. There's a podcast for everything.
That is cool, and I've never heard of that app. I need to look it up.
Yeah, you should check it out. I mean, if you want to talk about that for a second, it's definitely offered up its own frustrations in the couple. Like, I've only been using it for about like maybe 6 or 7 days now. And,
okay, never mind. I was about to okay, tell me more. But if you're still into it, you can talk a little bit about its pros and cons.
Yeah, I've used it before. When I was younger, I used it. I was like, yeah, Meetup groups sound cool. I want to go make friends. You know, I had a lot more energy for the shit, and it still basically works the same. So that, you know, you make a profile. It's as simple as like signing in with Facebook or Google, and then you look at they ask you like, what are you interested in? And it could be, like I said, anything, video games. They have like general broad categories. Like there's beliefs, which is interesting. Like you could actually, if there was a group that existed like this, you could like get into fights with people about their religious beliefs, I guess. Not that that's the point of that, but rather that, you know, just to share. There's socializing, which is like pub crawls and drinks and shit like that. And then there's what are some other examples of some of them? There's video game stuff. There's like a lot of video game slash anime kind of groups, which is cool. Except I don't want to make friends with a bunch of nerds because I've already got a bunch of nerd friends.
I'm glad I was able to worm my way in there before that.
No, that's not true. That's not true. I think like honestly, my problem with meetup.com, something I'm realizing is that it's me. You know, like if you want to, this is an interesting topic, I think. Like as I've gotten older and tried more aggressively, that's not the right word, but more I've put more heart into the idea of making friends. Like I've really tried to invest myself more into that and actually do the work that's involved. I realize that I'm just not very good at it. Like the problem isn't necessarily the people, it's just that it's me. First off, I'm picky, right? Like what I said just now about like who I want to make friends with. I don't have any problem with nerds. I'm a nerd, you know, for the most part. But my issue with getting together talking about video games is that I essentially have friends that I already do that with, and it's great. But I mean, and this is like a little like a side comment to a side comment here, but like video games is a commercial industry. And when I get together with people and I talk about them, what it really kind of boils down to, and I know that there's somebody out here that's going to like, this is going to click with and it's going to ruin the idea of talking about video games for them. But what it really boils down to is us talking about the next thing we're going to fucking buy. And in all likelihood, probably not even finish, you know?
Oh, God. Tell me about it, man.
And go ahead, sorry.
No. I'll talk about it in a little bit. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No. And so, you know, I don't mind that because I love video games, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of like, yeah, cool, Red Dead was cool. Let's talk about fucking Anthem next. And it's just like the game's not even out. All we're doing is pontificating on whether or not we think it's going to be good, and we all want it to be good because we're going to spend $60 on it anyway. Let's talk about other things, you know, and I get wrapped up in character development, and that's why I really liked Red Dead recently, and all types of different little things that some gamers, dare I say, maybe even the vast majority of, don't even play video games for. You know, like I've been doing it for so long that I have like a really deep appreciation for it. Now I feel like I'm like one of those assholes with the big like, you know, the big glasses of wine, just like stirring it slightly, like acting like such a pompous douchebag. And that's how I come off, I guess. But like, there are really, really, what's the word I'm looking for? Fuck, I've totally dropped this word. But there's really, really specific nuances that I love about gaming and certain games. And other people don't really have that eye for them or don't really care for that type of stuff. So when I go to a gaming meetup or I talk to people who are into gaming, sometimes the conversation is just about, you know, it was still about whether or not like they like Battlefield or Call of Duty, which is, it's fine to have that conversation, but there's more stuff beyond that. I think we're in a golden age of video games right now, and there's a lot to talk about, both, you know, from an industry side and then from a game side. And I want to meet more like-minded people like that, but you can't always get that guarantee. And that's just with gaming, you know, like that. I have little caveats about pretty much every topic. And then also, you know, you said it yourself, and I'll admit to it, I'm a bit cynical, and I'm also a tad antisocial. And so like I'll find myself in situations that are good, you know, not gaming related at all. I'm out in some social situation, and then somebody says something that just ruins my opinion of them. I've been talking about it on the podcast lately, but I was at a 10-year high school reunion recently, and it was more or less fun. Better than I thought it would be, if that means anything. But then towards the end of the night, at one point or another, we started talking about rent in San Francisco, which is ridiculously fucking high.
Yes, we've talked about this.
Right.
Oh, God.
And then as a result, what happens when you talk about rent in San Francisco for people who live in San Francisco or nearby is that the next conversation that comes up is the homeless problem. And
we've talked about this too.
Right. And I have my own feelings about the homeless problem, and mine are quite sympathetic. Like I think that these people need help. A lot of them are, you know, hooked on drugs or have otherwise like mental health issues, and those are serious things that need to be addressed. And then still other people that end up homeless suddenly, it's because of the rent problems here in San Francisco. And so when people bring that up, I say, yeah, okay, but it's the rich people's fault. And then there's an argument over here in particular about how dirty the homeless people can be, because it gets kind of aggressively nasty in some places. I've said this on my podcast a lot. People complain about human shit all the time in San Francisco, and I actually realize now, after defending it for maybe a little bit too much, I realize now that maybe it's just nicer in the areas that I have. Like, there are fewer homeless people in the areas that I am, because it's a little bit more residential, and so there's not many people out just willing to give money to them. But it does get pretty bad in certain areas. But still, my thing goes back to, that's because they don't have a place to shit. Like, what do you want from them? Like, they don't have a house. You usually shit in the bathroom in your house. These people don't even have that. What do you expect from them? So sorry, I got all up on my soapbox, but basically, I'm at the reunion, I'm talking to everybody, the rent thing comes up, the homeless thing comes up, and then people start trashing the homeless. It's like, yeah, man, I understand that you're in a shitty situation, but you can't just be shitting on the street, man. That's not okay. And I think the idea of expecting somebody in such a desperate situation to hold on to common decency is fucking ridiculous and stupid. So as soon as that person said that, I was just like, ugh, fuck. Like, I rolled my eyes and kind of wrote him off. And like, my point in saying any of this is just that happens to me, honestly, more times than I'd like to admit. Somebody says one thing that kind of gives me insight into their personal beliefs on a deeper level. Even if I'm wrong, I could just be judging them. It's entirely possible. In fact, given the odds, it's more than likely. But they say something that I just don't agree with on a level that means something to me, really. Like, because that to me, I think it reflects on how you treat people. If you look at homeless people and you just think that they need to fix all their shit, like, that's kind of insensitive. And I'm self-aware enough to know that, like, a lot of people I know, myself included, are only like 2 bad paychecks away from ending up homeless themselves. And so, like, I want to be associating myself with people that are more sympathetic to that, not people that are assholes, for lack of a better term. So when people do that, they show me that they're not maybe the type of people that I want to be around, I immediately just kind of get disheartened and I just disengage. And that's my fault. That's like a character flaw of my own. I could just wait around and see if I could ask them more seriously what they mean and have a deeper conversation about it. But I don't. I generally get disheartened and move on.
Damn. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with
making
friends and stuff.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true. Wow.
Yeah, have you ever had any moments like that, out of curiosity? Like, somebody says something, like, in a non-serious environment, somebody says something that might mean something to you on a deep level that's like really, really negative, or it's like a red flag in your book about something, and it just kind of like really rubs you the wrong way?
There is one. It's not something I want to say on the podcast. I can tell you afterwards.
Okay.
I'll tell you afterwards. But there is this one time, and it's with I will say it's with an old friend that I've lost touch with many years ago now. It's been a long time since I've spoken with them. And what sucks is we used to be really good friends, really good friends.
Yeah, that's always when it hurts the most, is when somebody that you used to know you used to know really well says something completely off color, and you're just like, whoa, what the fuck?
It's not. It wasn't even that kind of stopped it. I think that was the start, and then it just started the fading away. And
right, it was like a degradation over time,
and then it just went away. And the way I am with people, me myself, like with a lot of people that I've met over the years in my almost 3 decades of being on this earth, like there's a lot, you meet a lot of people, they come and go, but there's the people that you consider your friends that stay around and deal with you for the best and worst parts of your life. And
true that.
And there's a lot of people like this friend I'm talking about, or I don't know, but there's a lot of people that I think back a lot that they pop into your head every once in a while, and I wonder how they're doing and stuff like that. Because like for me, it's not a lot of people that I've been acquainted with. Has there ever been something extremely negative or something that really pushed our friendship away? It's just been that level of degradation. It's just over time. So it sucks that not like there's a lot of people that I've have lost touch with within the last few years. That rarely do I get to see them every couple of months, maybe even actually there's been one or two friends that I've seen every couple of years, just popping up here and there. And it's weird, I think we've talked about this, that we just randomly started talking, and it's like we never fell apart, but there's something like deep down, it's not gonna solidify. It's not like we're gonna be friends again. It's just that one time thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be disheartening as well, for me at least, because it's something that I have to change in myself, is a little bit more aggressiveness, not too aggressive with friends, like texting them every 5 minutes.
Right.
It's something, you just got to try to stay within people's boundaries, I would say.
Well, that's actually what I was going to say before. Like, it goes into that thing I was saying about, like, the problem with making friends and keeping them for me isn't just the people, it's also me. It's like I don't really do a great job of staying connected to people. And so I make friends, plenty of friends probably. And I've probably even done this with podcasting friends, where I make friends with people and we have a pretty good interaction. And then I don't talk to them for a long time because I figure, oh, if they want to talk to me, they'll send me a text message. Look, they got my Twitter, they got my Instagram, they got all the different ways that they can reach me. It's easy. They'll reach out, and then they don't. And then I think, I don't know why this always happens, but like 100% of the time when they don't do it, the next time I think about it, it goes, well, maybe they just didn't want to speak to me, and that like, for whatever reason. And then I'm like, I get awkward about it silently to myself. I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't contact them. Maybe I'm bugging them. Like, I get this weird, like, reverse kind of like, self-esteem problem thing going on, even though it could just be that they're busy and they're not thinking about you the moment that you're thinking about them, So like, like I said, sometimes it's just me and not being able to put in the right amount of effort.
And you couldn't have said it better anyway. So it's just that. It's really, I think we share that same mentality when it comes to these things.
Right. And then making friends, you want to do it, but then you're like, you have that problem. And so it becomes harder and harder to, like, work against it. You need to get practice in. You need to meet people. That's hard on its own. And then you need to actually set to and stick to the idea of, like, I like this person or these people. I want to hang out with them more. I want to create those opportunities more. It's an exercise. You got to practice that.
So anyone listening, like, take these.
Be our friends.
Like, listen to that. Listen to what we're saying. We're at a point where we have that much knowledge, and we're trying to let you guys avoid being us for the most part. Try to stay connected. It might be hard, but push yourself. And if there's people out there that are on the opposite spectrum, bringing you down, push them away. There's also that negative effect with people. And I don't think we've talked about that too, or I kind of did a little bit, but.
You got problems with people that give you shit?
Me personally?
Yeah. Like.
Oh no! Like I said, like, I'm really bad. No, like I have a very limited pool of people now, so I'm pretty fine. If they're an asshole, they've been long gone and forgotten. So
fuck you guys.
So there.
If you're listening. So, I don't know if they probably wouldn't be, but
I don't know. I'll give them a card, and if you want to listen. If you're at this episode, now you know why I haven't talked to you in X amount of years.
There you go. There you have it. It's because of you.
But no, seriously, people. Anyone listening, just a reasonable sense of connectivity. Just try to stay connected. Push yourself to get yourself out there, and just overall, just try to enjoy the social game of meeting people and trying to stay connected. It's like you said, this podcast, our podcasts, has brought us to connect with a lot of people, and it's not only just try to avoid being so selfish. That's I think that's the best way to put it, in that mentality of, like, they should contact you, putting yourself out there. I think I remember you spoke earlier last year about that. Yeah, you contacted one of your old buddies, and that kind of brought it back a little bit and maybe gave you a little bit more clarity from that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was Well, I guess I could say it now. I mean, I don't think very many people would even know what you're referencing because that was like early on when I was starting the podcast out. That was like probably within the first 20 episodes or so. But that was actually a girl that I was like madly in love with at one point or another. And we had like, played these little games with each other for a long time. And I didn't want to get acquainted with her for any romantic reasons. I was in a relationship at the time. But it was just like I was at a point right then where I was kind of like I felt lost on a personal level. Like I felt like I just didn't know what I was doing or who I was, which happens to me occasionally, more times than I'd like to admit, honestly. And I wanted reference from somebody who knew me a long time ago. And that was the first person I thought of. So I contacted her and never got back to me, either because she didn't see it or she just didn't want to. And that's fine, but like, that was the first moment where I was like, yeah, man, if I want to make friends or if I want to keep friends or get reacquainted with friends, I got to put some energy into this and I got to be upfront about it. Like the hard part about it is that you also can't just jump into somebody's life after being gone for many, many years, or for many, many months. You can't just like send somebody a text message like, hey, yo, what's up? What are you doing? You see Game of Thrones last night or whatever? Like it's fucking weird and people take that weird. You have to like actually address like, hey, by the way, I know I haven't been around, been thinking about you a lot, or blah 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 blah. And you have to have like a serious kind of dour moment with somebody before you can try to be like, hey, dude, what's Game of Thrones? You can't go back to being really casual with people. Although that is what we want. That's the goal, is that you can be casually friendly with somebody that you're very well acquainted with.
Yes.
At least that's what I want.
No, that's I don't think I could have said it any better than that. That statement in itself is what I was thinking. And that's a good way to try to reconnect with someone, is just that kind of sense of what went wrong or what kind of faded away. And then
or just what happened. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be something that went wrong.
No, it's just like, yeah, it's been a long time, how you've been, it's been forever and something like that. Just to kind of let them know, you're thinking of them and that you just want to talk with them again.
I got a question for you. For the sake of conversation, right?
No,
I was talking about how picky I am about people, and we would just we spent the better part of this podcast talking about like socializing, things like that. So something I've been thinking about more, because I've been so picky and I've been realizing it more and more, is like I get judgmental and then I just kind of like tune people out. It's like, all right, you don't want to deal with somebody like that. Who do you want to deal with? Like, tell me what your idea of an ideal new friend is.
That is the $1 million
hard question to answer, right? Yeah.
The best way I could put it is someone, for the most part. Okay. I actually have a reasonable answer for this. My answer for this question would be someone you can have a reasonable conversation or hold a reasonable conversation with, be it different conflicts or anything. It's that you're willing to listen to each other and talk about whatever topics on hand and continue to enjoy each other's company. I would say that's my answer. Or actually or enjoy the activity you're doing. So conversation or activity.
Okay. All right. That seems a lot easier than anything I had thought up. I honestly asked you to get insight into the answer because I haven't really been able to like sit down and figure out exact qualities that I would have liked,
So like quality wise, people are different and everything. So for me, it's not really about it's not really about the initial person.
It sounds weird.
It sounds weird. People. I know people are listening might understand what I'm trying to say. It's, you never know once you meet someone, you never know who they are 100%.
Right. You're not going to get it all up front.
So when you start that initial conversation and start to get that little nugget of connection and start to develop that conversation, it's when it comes to developing a relationship further, not only in like just friends or more relationship, like next level and stuff. It's like I want to be able to like enjoy whatever activity we're doing or plan to do together, or when we're talking, hold that conversation or enjoy it. You another good thing is that you can get into heated conflicts and conversations, and it's one of those things, like, it happens, and when you're able to jump over those, or like learn from those, or settle those conflicts, you guys become better friends from
Right.
that. Surprisingly, I've never had that happen to me too much. I've never had heated conflicts that many. I can't think of anything that's.
I can think of a couple of phone conversations I've had that like went south really quickly, and I was like, you know what, fuck you, and hung up. But like, those were never so serious that I didn't make friends with those people again. But never in person either.
So I don't know. I try to avoid being angry. There's one I'll mention to this, so anyone listening, like, if anyone's ever wondering if I'm ever going to get extremely mad on the show, I try to avoid getting angry. Well, because one, I've been told, and I've noticed that I have a horrible anger management problem, and I've seen it on video. So,
Oh Jesus!
yeah, that is my name. So, I think over the last couple of years, I've tried to avoid that, and I've been successful. But it's one of those things I try to hold myself from ever truly getting mad. I get upset. I'll get upset, but I'll never get mad. And that's one thing I'll say, is that I'll never get mad at someone unless they're being, like, completely fucking stupid. Then I'll get mad, but not to the point where I have that little, like, mad emoji on my forehead.
Right.
So, like, that's one thing that I've developed in my life, and maybe that's another reason I've also never really got into an argument with any of my past old friends or my new friends. We never had that level of complicated talk. I don't know how to describe that. I've just never gotten mad at anyone. Like, I try to avoid it as much as possible. Not because I'm worried about something like that. It's just something that I've tried to just instill in myself. Like, just don't get mad. You don't want to do something. And that's something I'm willing to admit. That's one of my flaws, is that I just have a horrible anger problem. And what's funny is that I say that, but I haven't gotten mad in the last couple years. So I don't know.
I don't think I've ever heard you even slightly annoyed at anything. You seem to take things. You roll with the punches, is what I was saying. Yeah. Yeah,
for the most part, like, I'm willing to make my point and state it, but I'm never willing to get aggressive. Let's go with that. I don't get aggressive. Right. There you go. That's the best way to put it. I do not get aggressive. I never get to that point. I try to de-escalate any situation I'm in. If not, I'll just leave. And that's a very good way to overall think. And if you have a heated head,
aggression is like second nature for me. Like I get to moments like that in the podcast. Somebody will say something I don't agree with, and I start to get like kind of aggressive. And I realize it, and I'm just like, fuck, this is making me look bad. But, like, I'm passionate about some things. It just kind of comes out. I don't get so bad, I think. I mean, I do have a pretty bad anger problem when it gets angry. But typically speaking, there's a difference between, like you were kind of exemplifying, like, there's a difference between anger, like, I'm going to fucking kill you. I might actually just do it. I need to take myself out of the situation. And I'm mad and aggressive, and I'm just arguing. At least for me, there is. And so, like, I'm usually just mad and aggressive and arguing. I rarely ever get to murder rage. But it does happen, and I haven't killed anybody yet, allegedly. That's not how you do that. But whatever. Anyway, that actually, what you were saying just now just kind of, like, made me think about something, if you'll allow me to share when it comes to friendship.
Go for it.
When I think about friendships, the best friendships I've had, there's been support, and there's been moments of, like, deep connection, and those are all wonderful, and I think we should all strive for that. But one of the things that I miss the most out of being a teenager is immaturity. I have so many happy memories of stupid, dumb shit, and I mean, I've shared a lot of that on this podcast and on my own, but, like, little tiny things that I don't even remember. Like, I remember I was I usually don't remember until they come up. I remember I was a teenager, and me and all my friends were eating pizza. And I didn't have any money at the time, so they had all bought the pizza. And I knew that it would piss everybody off if I ate the last slice because for whatever reason, people are always upset about that last piece of food. And so I said to my friends, I was like, "Hey, you guys, you know what's the best part about pizza?" And they were like, my friend was like, "Don't fucking do it." And I was like, "It's bite size." And I grabbed the whole piece and I shoved it in my mouth. And he put his hands in all the pizza grease and started slapping me in the face. and that was totally not my favorite thing in the world. I do not like grease in general, and I definitely don't like it on my face. But it was like to have a friend that is so comfortable with you that when he's annoyed, he will put your hands in your face is a big deal, because as an adult, nobody puts your hands in their face. That's fucking rude. That's, there's so many different like rules that I think that we've grown up with abiding by that it just kind of hinders making connection with people on that level. And I know that it sounds immature and stupid, and I guess to an extent it is, but like I want a friend that, if I need to borrow $100, will let me borrow $100, but also if they get annoyed with me, might throw a drink on me in a funny, playful way, like not like in a way that's going to ruin my night, but just doesn't mind fucking with me.
No,
and
yeah.
That we have, sorry to cut you off. I think that we just kind of, as adults, it's harder and harder to find that, even though I think that's what we need more of, is people that are that comfortable with you.
Sorry, no, I was about to cut you off, but no, that's the best way to do it, because that's, like, I have two friends at the moment, like, close friends. I would call them close friends. I'm really bad with the way I associate with people, but I have two people like that I would consider close friends that are like that like I met them like later in my life, and we, you like you said, you want those immature interactions. You want to just goof. You want to mess with each other. That's maybe something we're trying to strive for some of our past in a way. The way we want that. But it's a good way to. It's a good way to look at friendships. You want to be able to get mad at your friend and then just make up. You want to have that level of closeness. I think that's the best way to shorten your thing a little bit. And I don't want to sound disingenuous the way you said it, because you said it perfectly fine. But no, yeah, you want that level of friendship to just be able to, meet them, have fun, mess around. If they get mad at you, they get mad at you. But then you make up and your friendship continues, and you want that. You want to be able to be a kid again with them, I would say.
Right. And I mean, I think part of it is definitely like, I want to be back in the old days. Who fucking doesn't? Like, if you live long enough, sooner or later you start pining for the old days, I think. Unless you have a really, really great life and a super healthy environment to do all the things you want today, chances are there's always going to be something about before that you missed. That's fair. But also I think it's a conversation about, like, I mean, this is a different topic entirely, but they say that you're only ever as old as you feel. Like, I've heard this before, right? Like, I'm about to be 30 in another couple of years, maybe about to be is a bit too soon, but, it's coming up. And I think I was listening to a stand-up comedian who was like, when I turned 30, I was like, this is it. I'm 30 now. Everything's going to get real fucking serious. I'm getting old. And then he goes, and then I turned 40. And I was like, what the fuck? I just wasted 10 years being all serious. Now I'm old. And then he says, and then I turned 50. And I was like, this is bullshit. And it's like you go through these moments of, like, I don't know, I guess because as you age, you just think that's how it's going to go. But you go through these moments of, like, really trying to make your life super duper serious, because you think that that's what's right for you, when, you're only really as old as you act. You know what I mean? And so, like, I think the for me, the desire of having friends around that are willing to be immature and share a dick and fart joke or do something stupid, I think that keeps you young in a way. It keeps you happy in that young happiness. Not the same. It's not the same as, like, not that old happiness isn't as valuable or equally as valuable, but rather that, like, it doesn't carry the same weight or, like, thought that it does. It's just happiness for happiness' sake. And I think that's important to feeling young. And I think that, sorry to cut you off. I'm going to wrap it up. I think, like, there are some people that say, like, yeah, I just want to be back in the old days, and that's fair. But I say, what's wrong with that?
I can't say it any better. You like I know I keep repeating myself. That's a great way to put it, you know. And I think this is a good way to end this episode. Well, we have some games and stuff.
Yeah, let's do
like
the
that.
games. Let's get to the game.
But I think this episode was a good eye opener for anyone listening. You know, even though like I don't know how to put it, because the way I have this show is for you to promote each other and or promote you and a little bit, but they gotten to know you now, and if like I don't know how to put it. You know, I don't know, screw it. You know, anyone listening, honestly, this show was meant to promote Raul and his podcast and let you guys know a little bit more about him. And you did. You got to know him a little bit more. And
I'm a pretty thoughtful guy.
Exactly. So hopefully, honestly, I don't have the words I want to say in my mouth at the moment. But
I get that feeling a lot. I know that it might not seem like it, but I do.
No, but this topic we spent a good amount talking about. It's something, luckily for us in the future, in the new year, you guys are listening to it, is a good thing to kind of hedge your way in. And I hate thinking of it like that. You know, it's a new year, it's a new you.
The resolution,
but it's kind of but it's kind of set in our minds now. But you know, just some points to kind of make from that. If you can chime in if you have a few. Is one, like, put yourself out there, get yourself in that, and get talking with people if you feel uncomfortable. Let's see here, and if my second point would be once you start that conversation, you're hoping to continue that relationship. You know, try to make sure that relationship is someone you would like to continue spending time with. In, like I said before, in that conversation or in that activity. And thirdly is, like Raul just said, is
just
find
someone. My name like a white person.
Hopefully find someone who you can just have a goof and mess around, and hopefully even getting each other's nerves every once in a while. But bounce back from that. I don't know if you want to add anything else from that, Raul.
No, man, I think that's it. That's it right there, right? Like, put yourself out there, do the things you want to do, and then fucking have fun. And, like, really don't be afraid to be immature. I think some of us, I don't know if it's, honestly, I'm not sure. I don't think I've met the breadth of all people, but I think there are some people that are born serious. I certainly have my serious moments, and then there are other people that are not so serious. And I think some of us get the idea that we have to be. So, you know, you don't have to be. Enjoy yourself, be silly, have fun, fuck around. That's the only thing I got to say of that one.
And right now, towards the end of the show, is our silly part and the convoluted part. You already shared a little story about your friend slapping peaks in your face, so I'm not gonna, unless you want to add another story. We can just jump into the game. It's up to you.
I mean, I could probably think of one, but if it might take a little bit, so let's just jump into the game.
All right, guys. So normally we would have had a story time, but Raul enchanted us with the last slice of pizza. So we're gonna start with a new game for this season. I already made an announcement beforehand that we added a few new games. So this game, I have yet to name it. If I have in the early announcement, I'm sorry, but Raul is gonna try to apply to 2 new jobs. He has been given some qualifications he has prior, unless you need me to read them off again. And
for the sake of the audience, read them off.
Oh again. No, I will. Okay. And he has these specific qualities, and you can add any of your current qualities to these jobs, but you have to try to make these 5 qualities kind of apply to the jobs you're trying to apply for. Do you understand?
I got it.
So the qualities he was randomly given is he has field experience in the job that will be announced. He currently owns a minivan. He currently has a gambling addiction. He has an Oedipus complex. And The last one is he has terrible things, whatever that entails. So the first job you're trying to apply for is, I gave you a little hint earlier, is you're trying to apply to be a pirate. I'm sitting at the interview table. Sell yourself. That sounded wrong.
Well, I mean, maybe not for a pirate. Okay, let's think about this. Let's get some things out of the way, right? Some things that maybe might not be listed here as requirements, right? First off, I've got one leg, so boom, right there, pirate, peg leg. We're all aware of the cliches. I'm not uncomfortable playing to my strengths in this situation. Secondly, I've got a beard. It has some weird colors in it. You can call me like Red Beard. I got like a streak of red that runs through my beard. I have no idea why. Right? That's a good one, right? That's a nickname right there. I'm nicknameable. Pirates need nicknames for some fucking reason. But let's get to the actual requirements. All right. Firstly, minivan. I already got one. So I don't know why a pirate needs a minivan. I don't know why you've listed that as your requirements, but I got that in spades, bro. You asked for it. Boom. We're here. Field experience in piracy. You have any idea how many movies I have downloaded? How many songs? All right, piracy is my jam. In fact, of the illegal things I've done, I'd say that piracy is the most of them. All right, terrible things. That's the rest of all the illegal things I've done, but I'm not going to share that with you right now. What was the other one? Who said Oedipus complex?
So you have an Oedipus complex and you have a gambling
addiction. All right. Well, let's save the good stuff for last. Gambling addiction. First off, I wouldn't be here applying. Why do I have to apply to be a pirate? Applying to this job as a pirate if I didn't need fucking money, obviously, to cover my horrible gambling addiction. Sorry that I cursed. I don't know if you're okay with that in the interview process.
We're pirates.
So, we're right. Okay, cool. So I seriously need some fucking money, man. And then also, I mean, you're out on the sea, the ocean. You're drinking rum to keep the scurvy off. You're pirating things. You're telling people that you need all their stuff, and you're killing and carousing, stealing and roughhousing. And you get bored. Somebody has some dice. Who says I'm not going to shoot craps? Of course I'm going to shoot craps. And honestly, gambling addiction is just like any addiction, and that's what I've got in spades. Just an addiction. Anything that can stimulate me enough that I can make myself sick on, I'm there. So I'm totally good for that. Now the Oedipus complex, that one's a little harder to nail down. First off, being a pirate or being pirate qualified, I haven't done much Shakespeare reading, so I'm not 100% clear on what that means, but to my understanding, it means I would like to fuck my own mother. I can't say that that's really what I want to do with my life, but I can say that I fucked a few other mothers, and it was always good times.
That works. Damn. I was wondering how you were going to do that. There was a couple things I seen on here that you could have used, and you took it to another level. So that works.
I was trying my best. So what's the second job? This one I don't know about at all.
Okay,
I've been trying to work Oedipus complex into piracy for like the whole show. I've been sitting around thinking about, because you told me about that one beforehand. But this next one we don't know. I don't know anything about. So let's hear.
So let's talk a little bit about the pirate. So normally, okay. Yeah, you got the job as a pirate.
Fuck yeah.
Because the terrible things, you do terrible things. You're a pirate, right? So that works.
Right, exactly.
Gamble addiction. Pirates gamble.
Of course. What else are they going to do?
Field experience works. You do bad things. Already mentioned earlier with the terrible things. Minivan. Well, we just need to be able to offload and load stuff back.
Yeah, right. We got to get around when we're not on the ship.
And the way you worked Oedipus complex, that's gold there. I was wondering myself, because the audience, if you're listening, that was the first card I pulled out, and I was busting out laughing.
Yeah, you really fucked me on that one.
Hey, like I said, these are random cards that get pulled from a party game, so you guys can pick it up. But not sponsored, but it's a fun way for my guests to have a little fun and maybe really think hard sometimes. So pirate, that works.
Wait. Not sponsored yet. Whoever makes this game, though, hit us up.
Yeah. So I gave you a heads up to one of your jobs you were trying to apply for, and these qualifications I was looking for worked well for a pirate. Now, how are you gonna wrap your way around on this when you're trying to apply to be a magician?
Ooh, okay. Well, first off, magic's wonderful, right? And it brings a lot of light and joy to people's lives, and it's always, when you do like magic shit on the street, people are always like, oh, right. What they don't think about is that you got to get all that magic shit from one place to another place, right? And you think, oh, maybe he's just got like, infinite pockets, or like that backpack that I can just keep pulling shit out of. Yes, but that's heavy. I don't want to carry that around all over the place. What am I going to put it in? A fucking minivan, which, as previously stated, I already have.
Okay.
So, secondly, gambling addiction. I can admit that I've got a gambling addiction. As I said before, I just kind of have an addiction. But, I mean, if you teach me magic, I won't have a gambling addiction. I'll have a gambling hobby that will lead into like a source of revenue and income, right? With magic, I could beat the addiction part and just go straight to the winning money, which is what we all want, right?
Okay.
Field experience. I mean, that one's a little harder to prove, I think. I can't show you here because we're doing this over, the internet. But like, if I tell you right now that I've got those mysterious linking rings and I'm linking and unlinking them, will you believe me?
Do you have any Foley effects? That would have been awesome, actually.
Yeah, I wish, right? No, you're just gonna have to take my word for it, though. Field experience is, like I said, it's harder to prove, but I tell you, I've seen my fair share of magic tricks, and I've done my research into how they're done. And I think with the right equipment, in fact, no, not I think, because I think is not a positive statement. It's not a statement that you want to hear from somebody who's doing an interview. I am completely sure that if I had the equipment here in front of me, I would be able to replicate some of those with little to no effort, because I am that damn good and that damn confident in my experience. Is it all right to curse in this interview process? I don't know how magicians feel about it. So let's see. What was that? That was 3, right? So we
have two more. I think these are the 2 hardest ones.
Complex. All right. So terrible things. All right. Well, let's look at this like it's a normal interview. I just have to be upfront with you. I've done some terrible things. Terrible things that I don't really wish to share in great detail with you. But here's the deal. If you give me the power of magic, I don't know how this works, if you just bestow magical power upon me, or if I have to work for it or whatever, but if you allow me to have this job, I can make those terrible things disappear. Huh? Because of magic, right? You getting it? You're picking up what I'm putting down?
Mm-hmm.
And also I have an Oedipus complex. That's it. There we go.
Okay, that works. I'll take it. That is that.
Which job did I get hired for, and which job did I not get hired for?
Sadly, we cannot hire you as a magician. But I think you'll make a good spot as a pirate. We would happy to take you on as a pirate.
Honestly, it's not a bad. I think that's a pretty good choice for me.
So we look forward to working with you. And if you get kidnapped randomly, don't worry. That's just initiation.
Right, yeah, pirates, they go through that type of stuff.
So, ding, 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 you are now a pirate.
Arr.
And thank you for playing. I hope that the new game for this year was enjoyable, because I had to kind of test it out with you. So what did you think, little beforehand, before we end the show?
About the game or about the whole podcast?
The game.
Oh, the game was fun. I think it was cool. I mean, I'm always down for these. Excuse me. I'm always down for stuff like that, just because it's like a good little chance to improvise and riff, and if I'm in the mood for that, I do that quite well. So I think it was a good exercise.
There you go. So this is the time where I let my guests go ahead and literally sell themselves and let them know where they can find you. And
sucky $5.
Go for it.
So no, I will not be sucky $5 for anybody. But I totally got off track because of how completely off color that joke is. My apologies for anybody who's offended by that one. Yeah, I'm the host of the Wholesome Hoodlum Podcast. We talk to I say we because it gives you a sense that there's more than one of us, but it's just me. I talk to anybody about anything, really, for as Jesus has mentioned, for anywhere from an hour and a half to 7 hours. Sometimes no, but no. We sit down, we have long conversations, and we talk about whatever. I talk about whatever my guests bring me. It can be anybody from anything. If you want to come in, talk about what you're passionate about, I'm happy to listen to it. I think that I just really like conversation. I've said that 1,000 times if I've said it once. I really, really dig and enjoy conversation, and I get a lot out of it. And so my podcast is really just an opportunity to afford me more of that, like more conversation, meeting more people, and hopefully making friends and staying connected and things like that. And I think, and Jesus has already mentioned, I think sometimes I get a good episode out of it occasionally. So yeah, you can find that over at the Wholesome Hoodlum Podcast at wholesomehoodlum.podbean.com. It's also available on iTunes and Stitcher. You can hit me up on my Instagram at Wholesome Hoodlum, on my Twitter at Hood Wholesome. That's it. And maybe you'll find me on Reddit begging for guests occasionally, because sometimes I go there looking.
There you guys go. Honestly, like I said earlier, and I've said multiple times, check him out. He's a very enjoyable person to listen to. And that's kind of him. But remember, this is the Convoluted Podcast, so you can always find us on multiple places wherever podcasts are held. Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify. You know
You're
on
the plug. Spotify now? What the fuck?
Yeah, I know connections.
I gotta get up on that.
But anyways, if not, you can always hit me up on Instagram or Twitter at Tyrant Dominus, or on YouTube, where I'm finally doing stuff on there. And you can always find the upload of this episode as well on YouTube. So yeah, that's about it. I want to thank Raul again for taking the time to come in on to talk with me.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
And I hope everyone had an enjoyable time listening and getting to know a little bit more, not only about ourselves, but a little bit about your guys' self, and hopefully getting out there and making new friends and sharing the podcast with those new friends,
Yeah. Tell them that you made new friends and you found these two new podcasts that help you make friends, and you want them to listen because you think it'll help them make friends.
There you guys go. So thank you, guys. Bye.
Happy holidays.
Hey everybody, my name is Grant, and I host a podcast called It's Trivial. Now, It's Trivial is a game show in which I pit comedians, musicians, podcasters, and other interesting people against one another, usually in front of a live audience for the sake of public ridicule. Hope you'll check it out. There's something there for everybody. There's stuff for people who like movies, music, history, geography, comic books, and even more. Be sure to give me a follow here on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at It's Trivial Show, and check out the entire first season of It's Trivial now in your favorite podcast app. Thanks.